Today, I'm going to show you how I built the stage from the game and now movie Five Nights at Freddy's. This set has the iconic checkered floor. The stage is elevated with stained floorboards. There's a brick background, truss rails around the stage lanterns, speakers, and even red velvet curtains. We're going to cover quite a few miniature building techniques today, so I hope you're excited. These collectibles aren't your standard painted plastic figures. Look closely and you'll see that each one is finished in this fine velvet texture. It's the perfect juxtaposition of a soft, fluffy stuffed animal and a hard animatronic machine. These figurines are beautiful works of art with incredible craftsmanship. Now let me show you how I built this stage to house them. For the checker floor, I'm using this 13-inch by 9-inch panel of craft wood. The first thing I do is paint this entire panel white. I use a roller to make easy work of this. I did 2 layers and waited for it to dry completely. To create a checkerboard pattern, I'm using painter's tape. First, lay down a strip of tape horizontally starting on one end. Then use another strip of tape as a spacer to make sure that each strip is evenly spaced. Then do the same thing vertically across this panel. Once that's all complete, I cut out all the areas where the 2 layers of tape intersect. Cutting these squares out can be a bit tedious, but peeling them off is so worth the effort. You already see the checkerboard pattern show through. Next, I cover this in one more layer of white paint. This step is optional, and I'm just doing it to reduce the chance of black paint seeping through underneath the tape. Once that's dry, go over this with black paint. Once that paint is dry, peel off all the remaining tape and you're left with a beautiful checkerboard pattern for the floor. On top of this floor is the stage. For that, I'll be using these wood slats. They're 7 inches by 2 3/4 of an inch. I glue 2 together lengthwise. Next, glue another slat to the side of those. You'll notice that it's too long, so I'll cut off the excess by scoring the wood on both sides and snapping off the excess. For the look of hardwood flooring, I'll be using this iron-on veneer. It's in this beautiful oak color and comes with heat-activated glue on the back. I just cut off a bunch of strips and iron them on vertically across our entire stage. I love using my mini steam iron for projects like this. If you accidentally misplace a piece, just reheat and reposition. Once that's done, flip the panel over and trim off all the excess veneer with a sharp knife. For the stain, I mixed some dark brown acrylic paint with water. Then brush it across the entire surface. You can control how dark you want the stain by how many layers you add on. I also stained this long wooden trim in the same color and glue it around all the edges for a clean look. Then I top off the wood with a few coats of this glossy water-based varnish. It really brings the wood to life. To give the stage a lift off the ground, I'm using these scrap MDF pieces. I paint the edges black so this piece is camouflaged in the shadow underneath the stage. It will sit in the center of our floor towards the back wall, and the stage will sit on top of it. Speaking of the back wall, we'll be making that from this foam board. I cut this down to 13 inches by 9 inches to match the size of our floor. Score a straight line across the foam board about 60% of the way down from the top. Make sure your cut only goes through the top layer of paper. Then rip the paper off the foam. This step is a bit time consuming and messy, so it'll take some patience. Next, I use a pointed tool and use it to score horizontal lines 1/4 of an inch apart across this entire section. This is the beginning of our brickwork. Use the same pointed tool to freehand short vertical lines to make little rectangles. I make sure to stagger the bricks on each row to give it the iconic look of brickwork. Then I dry brush on some gray paints. You don't need to be neat about this. The more uneven the paint job, the better it will look for this set. I love how this turned out. Then split the bottom section in half. Paint the top half white. At this point, I decided to cover this area in striped washi tape for the black and white details. You might notice that the foam board warped a little bit from all the paint that we added. So I grabbed some 1/4 inch square dowels and glued them all around the top and sides of this backdrop. You don't need to add any to the bottom because it'll be glued to our checkerboard floor. Then paint these dowels black to blend them in. Next is my favorite and least favorite part of this project, the stage curtains. Working with fabric is always challenging for me, but the end result adds so much character to the stage. For the fabric, I'm using this red velvet pillowcase. You can also grab red velvet from the fabric store. I first steamed the fabric to get rid of all the wrinkles. This velvet complements the velvet texture on the U2's figurines so well. Using a rotary cutter, I trim off the seams. Then I cut off a strip that's 7 3/4 of an inch in height. For a frame, I grab a giant craft stick and cut out a 6-inch section. Using tacky glue, I glue one end of the velvet to one side of the wood. Then slowly fold the fabric over to create pleats. At each pleat, I add more glue to hold it in place. Once you cover the whole wooden stick, cut off the excess fabric, leaving just enough room to wrap over the edge. Then cut another length of craft stick and glue it perpendicular to the first one. Do this 2 more times to create a rectangle frame across this whole back area. I paint a thin wood trim black and glue 3 sections of it around the frame to give it more structural support. Then paint the rest of the frame black as well. This is optional, but I glued a few pleats down on the bottom edge. This just keeps everything a bit tidier. Make 2 of these and glue 1 to each side of the stage. Next up are the truss rails. You can make these using 1/8 of an inch square dowels and craft matchsticks. Just place a dowel vertically on your work surface and glue matchsticks to it at a 45-degree angle. Alternate between pointing up and pointing down. I was going to need a lot of these pieces, so I decided to quickly 3D model it and print it out. You just need to glue 2 of these together at a 90-degree angle. Do this twice and you'll get 2 of these sets. Then glue them together for a full truss. Super glue works really well for plastic. I spray painted all of these black. Glue 2 of them to the back wall on the stage. Then another one between those 2 to connect them. Glue 2 of them to the floor in front of the stage. To connect these, I made an even longer rail. Then I add some more trim pieces painted black to clean up and hide any uneven areas. Finally, we need speakers because no performance is possible without them. I modeled these in Tinkercad. The speaker is just a rectangle with rounded cutouts, so I take a red cube and stretch it out. Duplicate it so we have the same dimensions for a lid. Cut 2 small holes in the speaker with half sphere shapes. Make corresponding circular cuts in the lid as well. Then I take a few small cylinders and add them into the speaker holes. I also added a few more tiny cylinders for the look of dials on the lid. This is a really simple model. I printed this in black so there's no need to paint them. For the look of mesh on the speakers, I'll be using this loofah soap bag. The holes in this mesh net is the perfect size. Just cut out a small section and glue it to the back side of the lid. Then glue that lid to the speaker. Use a bit of black paint on the mesh and you're done. Place a speaker in front of each of the truss segments in the front. Lastly, I made these simple stage lanterns. They're made using a series of cylinders, circles, and squares. You can leave this part out, or add as many as you like all around the stage. You can even outfit them with working lights. Before I forget, we need a cloud-shaped prop in the background. I used my circle hole punch to cut out a few circles from the scrapbook paper. Arrange them into the shape of a cloud. Then just glue this to the backdrop of the stage. Then you're ready to add your characters and complete the scene. These characters fit perfectly. They're all ready for their time in the spotlights. That's it. The stage is all done. I love how this project came together and includes so many elements of basic model building. I hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.